So what happened? I mean, you had in Mexico, he was trying to be diplomatic, and then the red meat, he was just churning it out in the crowd. He had like
somebody got into primary mode.
Rockets, they're shooting out all over the place.
He looked for a minute. I'll duck as you throw things at me, like a statesman. In Mexico, he was
really, I gave him an A+ for for the stagecraft, and I broke Twitter. No, he did. I said he stood next to a world leader.
Right.
Well, wait, calm down.
Hold on.
Well,
calm down.
No
the
wonder
Mexican
he's at 23%
well,
popularity.
he is at 23%. But the question
the bigger
was,
point is a stagecraft.
Right.
Yes. Really,
he was invited.
Optics.
And he look. I mean, it looks like the UNGA backdrop.
Right.
And he pulled off what 25 minutes of looking different than normal. But then that changed.
We saw yesterday a vivid example of political contortionism.
Right.
It was incredible. In the space of 6 hours, you had 2 different people.
Yes.
Just so incredible.
Thank you.
So the problem, this is a problem politically, is in my first campaign, I was way ahead. So my opponent tried to paint me as this right-wing, rabid Christian conservative, which of course is a joke. Everybody laughed. Why, you wait, this Joe? You saying that about Joe? But you know, I was the right-wing Ralph Reed Christian coalition candidate. They use that to scare everybody, and then they would alternately get old clips of where my band had played at CBGB's or whatever, and said I was a scumbag rock musician. Right?
That's closer to the truth.
That's closer to the truth. But what did that do? And I learned this very early on. It was mixed messages. So not only did neither message hit, they effectively canceled each one out, and people went, ugh. So, and that's Trump yesterday. He's diplomat, and then he's red meat populist. And you're right. It's a contortionist, but they work against each other, Willie. So at the end of the day, neither one has an impact.
I thought yesterday was a microcosm of his whole campaign, where he has a flash of maybe this is a guy who looks like he could be president, but he had a long enough history that I don't think many people bought that. He turned to the Mexican president and said, "It's a great honor. I consider you a friend." He was speaking in diplomatic terms.
Right.
But the minute he landed back on United States soil, that speech last night, if there was any question about a softening, he could not have gone harder. This was a primary speech from last year. He talked about a new special deportation task force. He wanted to leave no question that there is amnesty. There will be no amnesty. If you come in this country illegally, we will find you, we will uproot you, and we will remove you from the United States.
So there was a softening in the afternoon.
Right.
And
something happened.
And hardening at night.
Had him change things.
Can we get rid of this
to the radio?
But his words, not ours.
But when you
we're journalists, and we just
please don't.
When you
that's not
when
funny.
you consider the day, though, the one issue that propelled his candidacy, the foundation of his candidacy, he walked away from it in Mexico City, returned to it in Phoenix, Arizona, in the space of 6 hours, from 4 p.m. Eastern till 10:30 p.m.
this
Eastern.
question?
I defy you to tell me what his immigration policy
Can I ask this question of anybody around the table? How do you have one issue that is your key issue, which is building the wall?
Which is
so
the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
So much so that is the punchline in your rally, right? And then you go to Mexico, and you claim you don't even bring it up to the Mexican president. How does one do that?
Well, apparently it did come up, so that's kind of a mess,
but he's saying it didn't come up.
He said they discussed it, but they did not discuss payment.
Yeah.
All right.
The Mexican president said he walked in and said,
him.
"We're not paying for your wall."
But Joe's right, it's in dispute. There are different accounts. I mean, my understanding is that there were some issues that were pre-wired before this meeting, and that was one of them. So, and that happens in meetings with leaders all the time. But
with people. Don't say leaders.
With people. We'll call them people. But the fact that ended up in dispute before he was even wheels up suggests that like like a lot of things he does, it wasn't all buttoned down beforehand. But I think this notion that he had all of his leaders out, all of his surrogates out talking about softening his position, I mean, he made fools of them. I mean, that to me was what left me up watching the whole immigration. He made fools of every single person on his campaign that talked about how he was going to soften his position on immigration.
All right, let's take a look at this. In joint remarks and a press availability after the meeting, Donald Trump said he and the Mexican president did not discuss his promise to make Mexico pay for the wall.
We didn't discuss that. We didn't discuss who pays for the wall. We didn't discuss. We did discuss the wall. We didn't discuss payment of the wall. That'll be for a later date. This was a very preliminary meeting. I think it was an excellent meeting.
So why wouldn't you discuss that? And they are going to pay for it. That's been his punchline the entire campaign.
And it was.
And you go down and you talk to the president of Mexico right there. You get him right there. You're both sipping coffee. And you're looking at him and you're going, nice place you get. No, you don't say that. You go, hey, we're building a wall and you're going to pay for it. If that's the center of your campaign, how do you not get the job done when you're there?
Because the meeting was for optics.
That 6 hours later.
Well, he did. He showed up. And for anyone who doubted it because of what he did in Mexico City, he went to Phoenix and said it about 10 times.
Right.
100% they would pay
exactly.
for the wall.
But he was just there a couple hours earlier, and he had the guy in front of him across the table, and you know what he was doing?
Oh, my God. Can you guys just stop?
He choked.
Just think about this.
No, he choked.
Just think about like the Brent
No, I
Scowcrofts
can't
and the Bob
stand
Gates
people that choke
and the
under
Brzezinskis
pressure.
and the Kissingers of the world and the meetings that we've covered. And this is a joke. We're trying to make this into something it's not. Can we please just get it over with? I'm going to continue.
Get what over with? What are you
this
talking about?
stupidity, this ridiculous session that fringe alt-right Republican candidate had with the president of Mexico about a wall that's never going to happen. Please, let's not pretend this is some sort of foreign policy discussion. This is stupidity. Mexican president, getting it over with.
He couldn't even get it right.
I'm getting it over with.
The only point I'm making is he couldn't get it. He couldn't
even get this right. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, facing a public outcry over Trump's visit, insisted that he had in fact addressed Trump's demand that Mexico fund the wall. Talking to social media, he wrote, at the beginning of the conversation with Donald Trump, I made it clear that Mexico will not pay for the wall. And from there, the conversation addressed other issues and developed in a respectful manner. Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs also weighed in, saying, quote, in meeting, the president was strong in that Mexico does not pay for the wall, position not negotiable. The Trump campaign released a statement saying the meeting was the first part of the discussion and a relationship builder, and it was not a negotiation, and that would have been inappropriate. It is unsurprising that they hold two different views on this issue, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
So after all of that, after the trip to Mexico, this is what Donald Trump said after he was diplomatic in Mexico. This is just sort of a stem winder that he delivered last night, almost trying to prove that the softening that they had experienced earlier in the afternoon and that they had seen in vivid display
Amnesty Dawn
in Mexico from Amnesty Dawn was no longer the case. And he had
just flip it.
Toughened up in Phoenix.
Number one, are you ready? Are you ready? We will build a great wall along the southern border. And Mexico will pay for the wall. 100%. They don't know it yet, but they're going to pay for the wall. On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. We will use the best technology, including above and below ground sensors, that's the tunnels. Remember that, above and below. Towers, aerial surveillance, and manpower to supplement the wall, find and dislocate tunnels, and keep out criminal cartels. And Mexico, you know that, will work with us. I really believe it. We are going to triple the number of ICE deportation officers. Within ICE, I am going to create a new special deportation task force focused on identifying and quickly removing the most dangerous criminal illegal immigrants in America who have evaded justice, just like Hillary Clinton has evaded justice, okay? Maybe they'll be able to deport her.
Okay, so kind of confused because you asked Donald Trump if he was going to have a deportation task force back in November, and he goes, yeah, I'll have a deportation task force. And the past couple weeks, they have been denying that they were going to have any deportation task force. All of them. All of the surrogates have been denying that they were going to have a deportation task force. Last night, Donald said they're going to have a special, new and improved deportation task force. It's so confusing for young minds such as ours.
I'll tell you what.
What?
I think that there's not much to talk about because I think that it's impossible to talk and have a conversation about nothing. I mean, it really is. And he brings nothing to the table. He says one thing, he says another. He is absolutely, there's nothing there in this candidate. But it makes for some great art. You got a great song out of it. Good job. I love it.
What are you
it's really
talking
good.
about?
Your song, Amnesty Dawn.
No, that wasn't
it's amazing.
me.
That was you.
I explained on the Facebook page, Willie and I were in Amsterdam.
Well, it was good.
For the day.
It's good. They get some good art out of it because at this point you got to laugh.
We were
I'm going to go to
bounced
Javier.
from Turkish prison. It's a long story.
Who came over and posted
So good.
But
We'll play a little.
we ran into this young man.
It's so good.
And we get a tape.
Funny.
Yesterday.
All right, let's bring in the president and the CEO of the
Really
United
good.
States
And I
Hispanic
released.
Chamber of Commerce, Javier Palomares. Javier, is there a legitimate conversation to have
All
about
right, that's
this
not
issue?
the question to ask.
No, I would like to know.
What was your take from yesterday?
You know what? It makes for great television, but I agree with Mika. There is nothing there. This man began his campaign on this issue. The United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce collaborated with the George W. Bush Institute on a study that found that net migration between Mexico and America was basically 20,000 people. In a nation of this size, that's practically zero.
So Javier, let me
and
ask
in
you
fact,
this
there was
question
20,000 more people
Really
leaving America
important.
going to Mexico than the other way around.
What did the chamber? What's the chamber's position? Have you all figured out? And I'm being dead serious here. What exactly he said yesterday? The totality of yesterday. And I'm not even trying to be funny.
Yeah.
What is his position?
There is
Because
no
he
position.
seems to be trying to have it all.
Yeah.
Throws the red meat out while he suggests that perhaps he's not going to deport families that have been here for 20 years. What did you all take out of yesterday's events? And what exactly is Donald Trump's position? Because the Times and other publications can't quite figure it out.
Therein lies the quandary that he's painted himself into. He's painted himself into this box. He's damned if he does. He's damned if he doesn't. He had to come back out and really kind of fire up his base. But the reality of it is he hasn't done anything to help himself in terms of growing the number. And so I think he's done for with the Hispanic community. He's never going to see the White House if he doesn't get a significant portion of the Hispanic vote. I don't know if you guys speak Spanish, but I want you to remember this one word, payaso. Payaso.
I was just saying that to Willie a second ago.
It means clown.
Yeah.
You know, this guy is a complete clown. I'm really sad for the American people and for the Republican Party. They had an opportunity to put John Kasich, you know, front and center. Instead, they ended up with this payaso. And, you know, it's a complete waste of time. It is a complete waste of time. We need to get on with it already. The nation has got other things to worry about. Immigration reform is a monster that he created so he could slay it. At the end of the day, it's not going to change things for this nation as we move forward here. We've got to deal with a broken immigration system, obviously, but it's got to be done in a strategic a fashion that makes sense on a going forward basis to fire up people and get this kind of hate-filled, you know, this movement of hatred. It doesn't solve anything.
Right. Willie Geist.
Gosh,
Javier, we all saw the numbers after the 2012 election, and the Republican leadership in their post-mortem report knew exactly what they had to do in 2016, which was to boost their numbers among Latinos. That obviously hasn't happened. It's flatlined at best. Is there anything Donald Trump could do in the next 2 months?
Absolutely.
Given all he's said for 14 months, that could change the tide?
No, absolutely not. And after last night, that was an extra nail on the coffin he's done for. The reality of it is, you know, that there was some great work done by the likes of Reince Priebus and John McCain and Jeff Flake and John Cornyn and others that are compassionate conservatives that were trying to, you know, broaden the tent and bring a broader constituency into the Republican Party. Donald Trump has laid all of that. He has laid it to waste, and there's no going back.
That is so sad.
It is.
And so true, and I thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. Payaso.
Payaso.
That's the word of the day.
I can say that. It really does stick. Trump's tough tone took at least some of his supporters by surprise. Overnight, Politico reported that several of his Latino surrogates are now reconsidering their support. Jacob Monti, a Houston-based immigration attorney, tells Politico he has resigned from Trump's National Hispanic Advisory Council. Quote, I was a strong supporter of Donald Trump when I believed he was going to address the immigration problem realistically and compassionately. What I heard today was not realistic and not compassionate. And Alfonso Aguilar, a prominent Latino conservative who organized a letter of support signed by himself and others, also tweeted, this is how I feel, disappointed and misled. But Trump's supporter and no, move up. Move up. No.
If you want,
just don't even.
If you want evidence,
move up the prompter. I don't want to read that.
If you want really documented evidence,
we'll not put her on the show.
That Donald Trump does live in a parallel universe. There was an element in his speech last night. Maybe we can find it. It was toward the end when he talked about the first hour of his presidency, what he would do in the first hour of his presidency, that he would remove everyone here who is here in this country illegally within the first hour of his presidency.
And start building the wall at the same time.
Yeah, if we could find that clip. I mean, you listen to that and say that he's not dealing in reality here.
But can I just, you know, what's remarkable is that the other thing in the news today is that the polls have tightened nationally and in some of the swing states, and he does this. This will win him not one new vote. This speech last night got him the 40% of the Republicans that are already with him.
Yeah.
This morning, the polls have tightened a little bit nationally and in Wisconsin. This speech moves him backwards. So when he loses, and I think he is set up to lose, it will be because he could never sort of expand beyond the 40% of the Republicans that he got to vote for him and support him enthusiastically. And what he did yesterday was display an ability, 23 minutes of it in Mexico City, to possibly, perhaps, maybe talk to somebody other than the 40%. And he came back and sort of whiplashed back to his instinct.
But he does this all the time.
To thrill and titillate the 40%.
Yeah. He does this all the time. He plays to the 40%, plays to the 41, 42%.
Yeah.
And then he decides he's going to expand his base. He's done it on guns.
But he's
done
lying.
It on immigration. He's done it on all these other issues. And he will go out, and then he gets criticized, and then he doesn't have the courage to stay out there, then he immediately runs back in.
And if I could just say, Alex wanted me to read a story, and Alex, I will paraphrase it without using the name, and that is a person who basically runs a business for herself, fueled on hate speech and hurting people, and is a huge supporter of Donald Trump, loved the speech. It says it all, but a great leader in the media once mentioned to us, actually, not to ever mention this person's name, because people like that have no place in the mainstream conversation. They are hurting America.
He's got his hardcore 40% supporting him.
And people like that.
But he's offended, again, some of his Hispanic supporters, the few that dared stick their neck out for him, and the college-educated voters that have been staying away from him.
Well, I mean, that performance last night in Phoenix, I mean, you saw a man who was absolutely willing to be captured and fueled by an audience in a hall.
Right.
Not the country.
Right.
The audience in a hall.
In Arizona.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all he ever sees.
That was a speech to me from August of 2015, not from August of 2016. In other words, when he's trying to win a Republican primary. That's the kind of speech he was giving last year. There's been no growth that
Seems
way
like maybe he heard
year.
your song and just got mad, because he's that small a person that he would actually respond.
What else, Joe? You mentioned that his surrogates have been going out saying there's no deportation force. Actually, what people like Kellyanne Conway were saying is he hasn't brought that up since November, and what they said was you'll have to wait till Wednesday night. What's clear to me now, and including some reporting in the Washington Post, is they had no idea what he was going to say on Wednesday night. He wrote that speech. Those were his words, and he delivered it last night, and nobody until the day of had any idea.
I don't think he knew what he was going to say until he left Mexico.
I really think he responded to how he felt at the moment, which I guess he was tweaked into it. Well, I mean, which is a wonderful way to conduct foreign policy.
The reporting in the Post is that Steve Bannon and the Jeff Sessions policy advisor, who now works for Trump, had been working on that speech for a while. So I think people in the campaign knew what he was going to say.
A handful of people.
Having been a spokesperson, what is startling to me is that he really has made fools of his spokespeople. Kellyanne Conway has been saying since 2 Sundays ago that there would be a softening in his position. She is largely viewed as a rational actor inside the Trump campaign. And he has made a fool of her this morning.
Yeah. And she's pretty good at what she does, but he has made a complete fool of her.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.